internet. It's time once again for Gaming with Max Von Puppet. That's me. Today we're going to talk about a nifty little indie role-playing game called Danger Patrol. Now, you'll notice here on the cover of Danger Patrol it says beta test. I want to give you a bit of a warning that that's kind of a misnomer. The truth is, John Hagen, the guy who's creating this game, has just kind of put this PDF of this game up on his website for free, and I'm not really sure he ever has the intent of releasing it. But even if he never releases it as a full game, this file here has been up on his website since 2010, and it's really awesome and totally worthwhile getting. I suggest you go get it. So, let's talk about what the game's about. Danger Patrol is a retro future sci-fi. What that means is it's a sci-fi game set in the far future, but it's a far future as visioned by the 1950s. So there's rocket cars and atomic laser guns and jetpacks and all kinds of great stuff like that. Chrome deco, Art Deco cities, and just great retro future stuff. And in the game, your players are all agents of the Danger Patrol, which is kind of like an intergalactic police force, or maybe an inter-solar system police force, since I don't think the game really ever goes outside of the solar system. But I suppose you could do that if you wanted to, but it depends on the kind of story you want to tell. The game itself doesn't actually go beyond the solar system. It fits really with the retro future theme there. It's a really narrative-heavy game that allows the players to do a lot of the narration in the story, direct how the story is going to go, where it's going to happen, and what kind of action they're going to get into. Which means that if you're the game master of the story, there's really very little prep you need to do. You just need to have some copies of some of the stuff that comes with the game, a bunch of dice, and a great opening for what you want to do for the story. And then just let the players direct you from there. And it's just a whole lot of fun. So, for character creation, what you have in the PDF are what are called style cards and role cards. These could be seen as race and classes. That's not an exact example of what they are, but it's close enough. And how it works is, everybody picks one style card and one role card and combines them together to make their character. So the style cards are things like Alien, which is pretty self-explanatory, Atomic, which is kind of like a cybernetic super soldier that has a nuclear reactor in their chest, a Ghost, Intrepid, which is somebody who doesn't have any supernatural powers at all, they're just kind of resourceful and have a lot of good luck to get them through. Kind of like your typical noir detective. Mystic, which is just what it sounds like. You'd be like a magic user or an occult user. Psychic, Robot, and Two-Fisted. Two-Fisted is also somebody with no superpowers, but instead of being like an Intrepid where you rely on courage and resourcefulness, Two-Fisted are more of the tough, strong, straight into combat, punch them first and ask questions maybe kind of guy. And then your roles are things like Agent, which would be, your ultimate super spy, Commando, which is the soldier character, Daredevil, which is like your athlete or your stuntman, the Detective, which really is more like the trench coat wearing noir detectives of the 1950s, Explorer, which is, the guy who travels around the solar system and finding, more like an Indiana Jones kind of character, that's what the Explorer is. Flyboy, the expert pilot guy. Professor, master of all the sciences. Gotta keep that when you're playing, remember all the sciences. Warrior. So the difference between a warrior and a commando is the commando is really good at shooting things with guns, and the warrior is really good at stabbing things with swords. So that's the big difference between those two. And you pick the two that you want, and you make your character. So you could be literally any combination of the style and role cards you want. So if you really wanted to, you could do something weird like a ghost explorer or a psychic professor or something like that. And you get to people pick some really funny combinations. It's a lot of fun. Character creation, it's just picking those two parts is pretty great. And then on your character, you have a set of stats. The stats are the same as the role. So you have an agent stat, a commando stat, a daredevil stat, etc., etc. And then you have a set of dice ranging from a d12 all the way down to a d4, and you place those dice in your stats to get your character's actual numbers. The dice represent what you're going to roll when you try and do something that stat covers. And obviously you put the d12 in your main trait. So whatever your actual roll is, the d12 goes in that stat. So if you're a flyboy, the d12 would go in the flyboy stat. And how the game works is like this. You want to do something, you have a die based off of what stat covers what it is you want to do. Then, if you want to, you can add danger. Adding danger is describing something that makes what you're doing even more dangerous than it already is. And for each thing you can describe that adds danger to the situation, you get to add a d6 to your die roll. And you can also ask, and you can get up to 3 danger dice that way, and you can also ask the other players around the table, including the game master, to add 1 more die to your danger die pool. Then what you do is you roll your whole pool, and each die that comes up with a 4 or greater is success, and each die that shows up as a 1, 2, or 3 is danger. And you have a danger meter on your character sheet, and you mark the danger meter off as you go. Now, the danger meter does 2 things for you. 1, the higher your danger meter is, the more likely it is that you're going to take some serious damage when your character gets hit by something. And 2, the higher up your danger meter goes, the more awesome stuff that happens to your character too. You get bonuses for your character having a higher danger meter in return for, putting your character in more actual danger. And that's the basic mechanic of the game. And the game alternates between 2 different kinds of scenes. You have action scenes, which are just what they sound like. That's the scenes where combat takes place, where the dangerous stuff that you're trying to do to actually achieve your goals happens. And then, when the action scene is done, you have what's called an investigation scene. And the investigation scenes are where your characters find out the clues that lead them to the next action scene. That's where most of the role-playing in the game is going to happen. And you go on from there. And it's really just a lot of fun, especially if you keep the retro sci-fi theme in mind while you're playing. So it starts off, your game master will start off with an opening teaser, like everybody has been captured by the princess of Saturn. And she has you all on floating platforms, and you're all tied at the wrists. And she said that the Danger Patrol has invaded her territory for the last time, and she's done with your threats to her sovereignty. And she orders you all thrown off the platforms down into the dangerous swirling gases of Saturn. And that's where we open. And then from there, everybody gets a chance to do a previously on, where you get to describe what your character was doing before you ended up on Saturn, captured by the princess. And then you go into your first action scene, which is right there where you're all trying to be thrown off the platforms by the princess's guards. And then go! And then everybody gets to decide where the story goes from there. You get to, why were you all on Saturn? And what was the princess throwing you off for? And, things like that. And it's just a whole lot of fun. It gets wild and crazy, and you end up with some weird storylines sometimes. I've played a couple of games now where one storyline was the Crimson Republic, which is kind of the communist menace that appears in the story. They were trying to poison the Rocket City, the bastion of democracy in the solar system, by poisoning Coca-Cola. That's how the storyline went. It was just wild and crazy, but everybody had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. And then we did another one where it turned out that the Crimson Republic, again, were the bad guys, and they were trying to help these evil slavers on Jupiter in order to get them to side with them against Rocket City in their upcoming plans for war. And that was also a lot of fun. And it just gets wild and crazy, and I've never had a game of this that everybody at the table did not have a good time playing. So it's a fun game. It's not very heavily detailed. The PDF is pretty small, and it's available for free on this guy's website. I'll put a link below. And I really highly recommend you go check it out and play it. It's just a total blast. So until next time, keep playing games. Bye!